Now, in what is another twist in this transfer window, Tottenham looked to sign Xavi Simons, trying to hijack the Chelsea move and get him in for 70 million euros. Now, in this video, we're going to talk about how he is different to someone like Eze, but how he still fits Tottenham, and exactly why this is actually a very good signing if you look at it from this lens. So let's get into it. Now, this is now my second video I have done on Tottenham, and foolishly I did a first video about Eze thinking that deal was done, and unfortunately for Tottenham it did not. Obviously he ended up going to Arsenal, and it is quite clear since then Tottenham themselves have been trying to get attacker midfielders with Ali Al-Khalouch, with Nico Paz, and now it looks like Xavi Simons is the third person and probably the easiest one to sign out of all of them, so it looks like it may happen if he chooses them over Chelsea. We still don't know the situation. Now, first of all, Xavi Simons is much more of an 8/10 hybrid than like a 10/winger hybrid, like someone like Eze. Now, Xavi Simons' stats last season weren't as good as other years, they were a downturn. However, overall, you've got to take context. Leipzig were one of the worst attacking teams in the league. They had the huge low amount of shots between everyone, and every single forward that they had in their team underperformed. I mean Nusa, I mean Šeško, I mean Simmons. It was just not one player, so I think that's more on the manager than him specifically. Now, when we did the Eze video, we said that he would make a lot more sense in them big games where Tottenham play a 4-2-3-1 instead of a 4-3-3. However, he could still be a good left centre midfielder if your other two kind of come back and play a double pivot and can kind of operate as a number 10 in that way. Now, looking at Xavi Simons, however, he is someone that I do think can work really well in a 4-3-3. Now, I've got a great example here of low blocks because Tottenham don't play loads of low blocks, but I imagine with Thomas Frank, people are going to start playing this sort of system because he is a very good manager, very great tactician, and they will be worried. And I think this is really where you're going to see the sort of effect of Xavi Simons specifically for them, but obviously we'll go for the others as well. So what I mean by that is Xavi Simons will operate yet again in this same sort of area that we were talking about with Eze, left side of the pitch, sort of final third, but more deeper. While Eze probably occupied an area such as this one, he more operates this deeper area. You know, he will happily come back and pick the ball up in these central positions and take it away. Now, something he's very good at doing is carrying the ball, but we will get into that later. Right now, I want to talk about the low blocks because in terms of a dribbler, in terms of taking people on, and in terms of creating something, he has got that. Now, it's been no secret that last year's Tottenham's big issue was dribbling. Didn't have enough dribblers in the team, weren't direct enough, and it really see them struggle in 1v1s. Now, this season, they're already a huge amount of improvements. You know, Kudus is one of the best dribblers in the league, which definitely helps. Even Odobert being fit and coming on will obviously help that as well. And even Richarlison being up front is a little bit more of someone that would take players on like that than Solanke. But I do think Solanke's a better player overall, if you know what I mean. And what I will say is that the most important player in my eyes in this entire Tottenham team that makes everything work is Papamata Sarr. Now, this guy, he may not be the most flashy player in the world, but boy, this guy is really good. And he just runs around and does a little bit of everything, which personally I love. Now, against the low block, you kind of want to have 5 up front. I was umming and ahhing of who you would put up here because you want Johnson more inside, you don't want him out wide really, and you don't want Kudus inside as much. But what you could do is I guess you could put Sarr back, Kudus, and then Porro, and then Sarr could just go anywhere he wants because that's kind of how it is. But I think this is probably the best way of doing it, and then you have Porro as a late overlap if you get the chances in there. However, I do think that with Xavi Simons being in here, it creates a lot more. Not only can he dribble past players that come towards him, you know, if they take him on in this little way, he can make runs past them, left and right, to go past them, but also he will drag players out of their position. You see this a lot with these sort of players here, but when they can create, when they can go past a few players, they'll take them on in this way, and instantly it will force a player to come out. You know, it might force a centre-back come out or a midfielder, and that just allows not only Solanke or whoever the striker is to make a run in behind, but it gives space to other people. We know Johnson, and this is just typical of Thomas Frank, he is going to consistently do this run all the time. You know, this out to in run he absolutely loves. And if Xavi Simons can able to pass this ball through like that and take players towards him and create that space, I think that's where he can really break down these situations a lot. And also, one of the major points about this position is the fact that Xavi Simons gets here and he shoots. He's a great shooter from outside the box. He can do it loads all the time. Now, I think the reason why I think Tottenham are signing him is mostly because they need an attacking midfielder. Just generally, they need some creative work centrally, and I think he brings that. But I also think in terms of like how they play and their quick counter-attacks, which we will see against especially lower oppositions, I think that is where he really is that key guy for them. You know, he will operate more as his left-sided player. He is on paper an attacking midfielder, but he's not someone that is going to sit here. He just isn't that player. He's going to sit on this left side. Now, what he's really good at is finding space between his marker. What I mean by this, if you get a little bit of space, if you're pressing up, and let's say Tottenham are building up from the back with Vicario. Yes, Vicario is going to go long sometimes. I don't think that's the benefit of his ability or the team's, but there will be times where, especially now with Frank, where you're going to build up slowly and work well with it. Now, I don't know who's going to play in DM. Maybe it's Gray. Maybe you want to play a Bergville in there. Maybe you play Papa Matasar. He can play anywhere. But ultimately, you're going to have people in this midfield that are be able to break away from players and able to push up. In man-to-man marking, I think Xavi Simons is highly important because he just moves around. He works really hard. He will go back if he needs to, but he also will make this run. And if you're able to be a little bit risky on the ball and play this ball into him and he finds space in this midfield, this is where he really comes to life. You know, in these positions, he's not only someone that is incredibly good at running with the ball in big stretches, but that sort of dribbling we talk about, being able to go past players left, right, and go around them, but also being able to bring players towards him and then be able to send it through is so important. And I think specifically Johnson will benefit a lot. We know Johnson likes to sit back post where you get Kudus to like dribble past people. You know, Johnson's always there as an option. But I think as terms of creating on this left-hand side individually, it makes a lot of sense to get Johnson in there so you can have these sort of inside passes from like someone like Xavi Simons that could help that. And in terms of what I mean by that, you see here he receives the ball in one touch, he goes past him with a little dribble, and then he runs into that space. And even though you see the options here, you can see what is probably the best option for someone like Tottenham. You know, you've Brennan Johnson on this wing going inside, and then he can kind of play that ball through. I mean, he can easily pass this ball through if this guy runs. This is Sheshko, funny enough, but obviously if someone on the right side did that. But him being able to be nimble, quick with the ball, and execute that quickly will help Tottenham be so much quicker, and more importantly, get that creativity in the midfield, which they're not the only team that struggles against, but I think overall it is something that is needed. And there's also a lot about it. Like at his PSV days, obviously a lot lower league, he kind of was very much in the box a lot of the times. You look at his goals and assists tally, he scored a lot and assisted a lot. And it's because he was picking up loose balls in the box, you know, when his players aren't finishing the job and being there for that. I think if Tottenham wanted to get more players in the box and commit, he is a player that you want in these positions to do that. And I think that is a big part of it as well. Now, in terms of defending as well, he works really hard. He will have to learn the system a little bit. We know what Frank's like and it's very difficult, but I think he can do that perfectly. And not only can he play as that 10, but I think when you play a 4-3-3 against smaller oppositions a little bit and you allow Papa Matasar to kind of go a bit rogue and run around where he wants, I think Xavi Simons can work off that really well down that left-hand side and give you a little bit more of an attacking approach. He needs a little bit of a midfielder that's going to break up play, so it might actually work more with a Polini in DM because he is that sort of player, and I think that physicality that Xavi might lack sometimes, despite being very agile and being able to keep the ball, will be a concern, but you get that with a lot of Bundesliga players just generally. And obviously he's super young, super talented, has always had that potential, and it is a weird signing overall, but I actually think it makes a little bit more sense to what I see Tottenham needing right now than in Eze, despite Eze probably being a better creative player in terms of all-round game. But I think Xavi Simons is a better, deeper player, and I think sometimes that can be very important because Papa Matasar can just help you wherever you need to, and if you got him in your midfield, I think you're fine. Let me know in the comments what you guys think overall, and let me know if you think this will happen. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.